Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Boyos Discuss, the podcast where we pick a topic and then shoot the shit about it for a while. This week we're talking about episode 7 of Shenmue the Animation, which is titled
Future!
I'm Matthew, and I'm joined by my co-host Ben. How's it going?
Good.
So before we get into the synopsis, there is a bit of Shenmue news again this week. So back in 2018, basically a group of filmmakers announced a Kickstarter for a documentary about the franchise. And after a few setbacks over the years, there was I think a fire at one point where they lost a bunch of their equipment and, hard drive failures and stuff like that. We finally have a release, sort of. So basically, if you're a Kickstarter backer, then they basically gave you early access to a pre-release digital version of the documentary. And since I did back it, I got a chance to watch it, and I think the wait was worth it overall. I actually watched it with my dad, and he's not really in the know of what the franchise is, and he was like, okay, I get it now, So eventually I'm going to make you watch it, but we'll get there.
Obviously.
So, stay tuned for his thoughts in the future on that. But with that out of the way, there are going to be spoilers for this week's episode of the anime as well as the games, so we do recommend listening to this after you've watched it either on Toonami or Crunchyroll. So let's get into the synopsis.
I feel like we need another disclaimer on that we suck at pronouncing Chinese names. There's a lot of them. We're doing our best, but we're two white guys. This is our experience, many others.
At least when you've played the games, they pronounce things a certain way in the games, and they do not pronounce them that way in the anime. Or I guess it's the same with the Japanese dub of the games, I guess, as well. I'm gonna call them the Voodoo because that's how they called it in the English version of the games. Whereas it's obviously it's probably Wuda or something different like that. But
Wuday,
yeah,
Wuda.
It's I'm gonna say it how I know it. So we open up on this episode with Rio talking to Master Tao inside of Shenmue Temple. And Rio basically doesn't believe that she's the master that he's looking for. And they're sort of giving him shit about that. They're like, well, how else can we prove this other than, sparring with her? And
he's like, I don't fight women.
Yeah.
They're beneath me and my penis.
I don't know about that. But
as a man, I can't justify fighting the weaker sex because they're so feeble-minded and subservient. We didn't know Rio was a part of the patriarchy, but this
and he has no problem fighting old men, though.
It's probably why he's so
fucking throw down with not pulling.
Oh right, yeah, absolutely, no holds barred spar against a fucking 80-year-old, but a woman.
But he tries fighting her, and he can't lay a single punch or kick on her. He does the signature move, the swallow dive, and of course he has to say the name swallow dive as he does it. But
lightning bolt.
But that doesn't work, and so she basically locks him in this move where she has her finger on a pressure point behind his ear, and she's like, yeah, if I was the one you were trying to fight, you'd already be dead, basically. And he's like, oh shit, I suck. So after that, she basically tells Rio that she's not going to help him and that he's better off just leaving Hong Kong and
she's
just
right.
dropping all of it.
Yep.
Well, I don't know about that, but
this is another responsible adult. Good for her.
Yeah, I mean,
how old are you? Huh? What? No, she doesn't even need to know that he's trying to kill a cartel leader. She's just like, oh no, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Why are you here? Go home.
So after the intro song, we have Rio leaving the temple, and this girl who's sort of I guess an assistant at the temple named Fang Mei. She sort of pokes fun at him for losing the sparring match with Master Tao. I guess she was sort of watching that, and she's like, yeah, no one's ever able to beat Master Tao.
She does the anime wink.
Yeah. But from there, Han Hui, who is the guy with the mustache, the monk who works at Shenmue Temple.
Yeah, Stalin stash.
Yeah, Stalin stash.
Got it.
He, sort of scolds Fang Mei, and he's like, get out of here, you scamp. And she's like, oh, okay. And he tells Rio that in order to find Yandazu, he essentially needs to learn the other three Wudu, and he tells him that he needs to go to the Guang martial arts school in order to sort of figure out what the next one is. But he heads over to the Guang martial arts school, and
they're like, Guang school.
Yeah. I mean, you mean the text on the screen?
No, I mean like a pun.
Oh. Oh, jeez. But he shows up there, and there's these two guards with these massive swords that almost cut his face off.
That was unnecessary.
Yeah.
Is that what they do to everybody?
Apparently.
What if there's just like a guy?
I guess
he's like, I gotta go to the bathroom, and they're just like, whoa! Like they gotta fucking really flex that hard on everybody trying to get in.
Yeah, it's like, this is a martial arts school.
Then why are you using swords?
How about that? Swords in martial arts, right?
It's it's unnecessary.
But it's cool because like that is how it happens in the game.
Gerudo Valley.
Yeah.
No, this is China.
They do that in the game though too, and it's just sort of like there's a lot of stuff throughout this where it's like they really, and I'm glad because like the stuff in Yokosuka there were deviations, but I feel like with this one and the first episode when we're in Hong Kong as well, they really have sort of stuck with I guess the material, which I think is good.
Yeah.
But yeah, those guards block him, and then the master of the school, whose name is Zoshan, tells them to let him pass basically, and Rio asks the master about the voodoo, and we get a bit of backstory from Zoshan, who is like, I'm not really worthy to speak about them since I basically ruined a man's life, and it sort of ends that scene ominously.
That's a fucking stretch.
Yeah.
Like, I was expecting some crazy shit. I'm like, oh my god, did you death touch him? Did you fucking Kill Bill exploding heart this man? But we'll get into that.
Yeah. But, so, after that, Rio sort of walks off from the school, and he meets up with Joy, and he asks her where he can find a skilled martial artist, and she says she doesn't really know of any. And then she asks him out on a date, pretty much. She's like, hey, I should show you around the city. Mm-hmm. And he's like, fuck off, bitch.
No time for thoughts.
Yeah. And so then after that, she sort of has her memory jogged, and she's like, oh yeah, there's this street performer who was able to fight off a bunch of gangsters, so you should maybe ask him. He's at the Golden Shopping Mall. And so Rio heads there, and at the mall, Rio sees a homeless guy sleeping on the ground, and immediately is just like, that's him.
Yeah,
that's the guy.
It didn't seem that obvious.
Well, in the game, it's even weirder because, like, he's off to the side sleeping, and there are, like, actual street performers in the middle of the mall, like, performing, but you don't talk to them because, like, you can't interact with them.
He's the only one you can interact with?
Yeah, and so it's one of those things where, it's like...
I feel like he could have done a thing where he's, like, talking to other performers, but like, I'm looking for this guy, and he's like, huh?
Yeah.
Ooh. I guess he's like, who's the only one dressed like an anime character?
Yeah.
Oh, him. With the baggy pants
and
the crazy-ass hair.
Yeah.
Who's way too handsome to be a homeless man.
Yes.
Oh, this guy.
So he walks up to him, and the guy is like, I'll help you, but give me a beer first. And Rio obliges, and he gets him a beer, and he fucking, like, chugs the beer.
Hell yeah.
Like, and he's like, yeah, my first drink of the day.
It's a homie move.
Yeah.
What's the first thing Matthew did when I got here to record this? He got me a beer, because he's a homie.
Yeah. But you didn't chug it.
I didn't. Well, some men aren't that strong. Some men aren't as strong as, what's his name?
Zongquan?
Zongquan.
But yeah, so he... Basically, after he gives him this beer, Zongquan, who's the performer, sort of ropes Rio into his street performance, and he's like, come one, come all, come see this kid from Japan break a rock with his bare hands. And I don't know if it's like, in the game, it sort of is implied that he didn't know that Rio was a martial artist, and I think they sort of say that in the anime as well, but Rio was actually able to break it with his bare hands. And Zongquan is like, hey, like, I'm glad you were able to do that. And he gets a bunch of money from all the people who are watching it. And after that, Rio sort of talks to him about the voodoo. He's like, yeah, like, I need to go around and learn this. And Zongquan is like, what the fuck? I thought you were here to learn to be a street performer. And it's like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard of.
Well, like, so when they're doing the trick, Zongquan is like, don't worry, I got you. How does he have him? He doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
He's like, I got you. Here's the rock. It's like, that's not getting me, my guy.
Yeah,
like, what if I couldn't break it?
I almost, because earlier, like, when he first walks up on him, he's, like, laying on the rock. Like, his head is on top of the rock, and I didn't...
Bro, you just broke my pillow in half, man.
And I didn't notice that until watching it this time, but my thought was, like, well, what if it was, like, fake or like foam or something, but
right.
it's not.
Well, that's what I was thinking. I thought he would go like, "Oh, that was good technique,"
rock.
but this is like
it's fake. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I can't help. Like I was on Reddit today. And I was just watching videos and shit, and this guy with fucking obscenely large knuckles in China or whatever was like, "Hey, I'm gonna break this," and he breaks these bricks, and I'm like, "Well, that was impressive." And then I go to the comments, which I never should do, and they're like, "Oh, that's fake because they're fire brick rock they're porous, and he's a hack." So maybe that's what happened. Maybe Rio
maybe
broke
a porous rock.
Right. Maybe he just had a chunk of pumice that he had for a pillow.
But from there, he's sort of asking him about the voodoo. And Zhang Quan is basically like, yeah, I'm not really worthy to talk about those either. And Rio's like, hey, that's what the master at Guang Martial Arts School said. And Zhang Quan is like, oh, like really? The master there, the honorable master, said he couldn't talk about them. And Rio is sort of like, well, what the fuck does this all mean? And so Zhang Quan gives Rio his cut of the money and then basically walks off to go from there. But after that, we have a scene where Joy, who basically she's driving head first, like hella fast down the street, to run someone else
Gonna
over.
go run somebody over on the docks, as you do.
Basically what happens is Ren throws a knife in the street in her path. And Ren, if you don't know, he was the guy at the end of the last episode who was sort of...
Who looks like an anime character.
Yeah. He looks exactly like he does in the game, though. So, I'm totally... I love it. I love that they keep the look.
He's hot.
Yeah. But, so he shows up and he's talking to Joy. He's interested in meeting Rio, because he's sort of talked to Wong about him, and we don't really know why yet. I think that's sort of something that we'll get more of in future episodes, and this isn't really something that happens in the games. So it's sort of intriguing that they're giving Ren more agency, I guess, and sort of having him have a reason to seek out Rio, whereas in the game it's just Rio looks for Ren at a point in the story. But
and is like Joy and Ren have like a dynamic in the games?
I mean, they're friends, but I don't know, they don't really do that whole flirtatious thing like they sort of do in this, where Ren is like, yeah, no guy in Hong Kong would be dumb enough to ask you out or whatever.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, he's like,
that's how see, Rio is doing the cold indifference. Ren's just dropping bombs. He's like, fuck you, bitch. And it's like, oh shit.
From there though, Joy's like, yeah, if you're interested in meeting Rio, then I told him to go to the Golden Shopping Mall so you can find him there. And Ren's like, okay, I'll head that way. So Rio heads back to the Guang Martial Arts School, and we do get a lot more back and forth of him going in between the mall and the school in this than we do in the game. He only does it once each way in the game, whereas in this he goes back and forth quite a few times. But I
want to say Ren talking to Joy, he was like, who's this badass from Japan? And that's totally fine with me, because apparently Joy's so thirsty for him that she's got to make Rio sound like this fucking demigod.
Yeah.
This amazing badass dude shows up in a leather jacket beating people's asses, and Ren's like, oh my god, I got to meet this guy. I really want him to meet Rio and be like,
oh, you're a bitch.
What the fuck is this? Fucking Joy, what a dumb bitch.
I mean, and their Ren and Rio's dynamic in the game is sort of like that, where Ren is like, you're just a fucking kid.
Good.
Why would I
That's excellent.
And they there isn't a super significant age difference, I want to say, because Rio's 18 and I think Ren is 24 or something. But
do you know, if I heard about some guy, I'm 24. Some guy I was like, whoa, you're telling me this guy does this and that? And whoa, I want to meet this badass. What a fucking bro. And then if you pulled out some 18-year-old, I'd be like, dude, have you met a grown man? Why are you showing me this little child?
Yeah.
This prepubescent seedling.
Oh, and one thing I do want to mention as well, because we've only been watching the Japanese dub. I have watched the English dub as well on Toonami. The voice actor for Ren in English is not good.
Oh.
He because in the Japanese dub, he sounds sort of like what you would expect him to sound like.
Yeah.
In the English dub, he's like, hey, what's going on, man? Hey, and it's why would you do that? And even the English dub in the game,
he's Hyde from that 70s show.
Not quite that. No, he's not a stoner, but or a Scientologist. Like
hey,
but
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
there you go.
But
you don't know.
I mean, yeah, you're right. I guess I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. I think that's one of the voices in the English version of the anime that they sort of missed the mark on. And it's like, yeah, maybe you could have looked at a few other choices. But yeah, so from there, back at the Guang Martial Arts School, Rio asks Master Zoshan if Zongquan was the one whose life he ruined, and Zoshan basically tells Rio that he banished him from the martial arts school because he was using basically karate to sort of attract attention to himself, and basically set Zongquan down the path of becoming a street performer. And so he's like, yeah, instead of being, like a really talented martial artist, who's like humble and stuff, he sort of gave into his, I guess, sort of ego and just started performing.
Less
to make
Zhang Guan and more Don Juan.
Sure. But from there, we go back to the Golden Shopping Mall. Rio is sort of looking for Zongquan again, and there are these thugs from the Yellowheads gang, and sort of keep that name
what
in
the
your
hell?
memory
That
for
is,
later.
dude, these gangs have the dumbest fucking names. Maybe this shit sounds badass in like Chinese or Cantonese or Japanese or whatever.
Yeah.
But in English, oh shit, look out for the Lemonheads. What the fuck?
But so yeah, these gangsters are looking for Zongquan, and they're
I'm sensing a continuation of the piss play theme that we're getting in Shenmue. Where like we addressed it in Japan, where like all of a sudden everyone's pissing themselves and pissing everywhere.
Yeah.
And now there's yellow heads, golden shopping mall.
Yeah.
I don't know what else beyond that, but maybe I don't know. It's strange.
Yeah. But basically, Zongquan owes them protection money. He hasn't paid up, and they're like, yeah, we gotta get that guy or whatever. And so Rio basically fights them for a little bit, and Zongquan shows up from the bathroom.
Oh my god, there it is.
And he's like, what's going on? And
you all doubted me.
Tens of two people listening. But he basically, Zongquan talks to the people who are sort of watching the fight, and he's like, oh, what's going on? And they're like, yeah, this stupid foreigner is fighting off the Yellowheads. And Zongquan's like, well, shit, I gotta fucking go in there and help him out. And so Zongquan, sort of, he doesn't really fight. He takes his little bag thing that he has, and he sort of
square something.
Yeah, that we'll get to later. But he sort of whacks them upside the head. And then once all the goons are knocked out, he's like, okay, let's run away, Rio. And so they run off together. And as they're leaving the mall, Rio and Ren sort of pass by each other in slow motion. And it's sort of a cool thing that it then would cut to commercial break.
I'm kind of confused
after,
by this. Like, so they show up, the Lemonheads.
Yes.
And their boss is with them.
That's later. The boss is with them later. And it's not the boss. It's just a like...
All right.
Yeah.
Then I'll pocket that.
Okay.
We'll
all
wait.
Right. Yeah, we don't see the actual boss till Kowloon.
I mixed up the scenes.
All right. Yeah, we'll get there. But so yeah, they run off and pass Ren on the streets. And so from there, we go to Manmo Temple very briefly, and we basically have Master Tao reading a book outside of the temple, and she's sort of deep in thought. And we see a brief part of a flashback, but we'll sort of get more of that later. We sort of just see the beginning of it.
Yeah, it's not enough to understand what it is.
Yeah,
it's like a 2-second black and white grainy thing of
it's like a blink and you miss it sort of thing.
And
but
it's like gone.
Yeah. And so like we get the extended part of that later, but even then we don't really see much. I think we're gonna get sort of drip
by
fed.
Extended. It gets another second.
Yeah,
it's
it gets one line.
Yeah.
But I think we'll get more of that later. Because that is something in the game, sort of about her past that you sort of find out in flashback form. But from there, basically when they're at the temple, Fang Mei comes up to Master Tao and is like, hey, like I finished cleaning the temple and I cleaned your room because I just had a feeling that
you might be getting some pipe later tonight, and I wanted you to look classy because I look out for the homies. I noticed that skirt shows an alarming amount of leg, and your ass is right out plump. So, homegirls look out for each other. Your room's clean. Get it dirty, sister. You know what I'm saying? And then they knuckle bumped. That's what I saw.
From there, though, Ren, he shows up at Golden Shopping Mall, and he sort of eavesdrops on some cops who are talking with some of the passerby who are explaining what happened with the Yellowheads and basically a foreigner who had fought with them. And Ren is like, damn, he's already gone. But from there, we have Rio and Zongquan at Pigeon Park, and they're talking a bit about the Yellowheads. This is where we get the exposition that they're in charge of the underworld in Hong Kong, and they're like, yeah, I've been, not paying them protection money, and they keep coming and trying to collect, but, it's just sort of a hassle, really. From there, they talk about Master Zoshan, and Rio tells him that the Master actually feels like he's responsible for ruining Zongquan's life, but Zongquan isn't really convinced. He's like, as if, whatever.
He's doing good.
Yeah.
He's pulling scams, making money, drinking beer.
Yeah, but he's also sleeping on a rock.
Hey, he looks happy about it, dude. He's never once like, man, I hate this whole life that I'm living. Nah, he's like, he's happy as a clam, that man right there.
But he sort of brushes Rio off and starts selling these fake books. I mean, obviously they're probably like, because he's like, yeah, get these ancient, books or whatever that he's just selling on the street. And it's like, those are probably just like, whenever you see like, oh, here's this Gucci bag on the side of the street in New York. It's
I'm not going to lie. I've bought myself a few Rolexes out of trash bags when I go tour New York because it's just hilarious. They're like, 20 for the normal, 40 for the Rolex. I'm like, well, I got to see what this junk looks like. And
this has to be real.
Fantastic every time.
Yeah. From there, though, Rio heads back over to the Come-Over guest house. I said comb-over. The Come-Over guest house. And the receptionist sort of gets pissy with him. He's like, what the fuck, man? Like, you haven't been paying me. It's like, I know you're friends with Joy, but starting tomorrow, you have to pay.
I mean, right, because I just said I knew Joy, and you were like,
Yeah. It's like, I didn't ask you to give me the room for free.
Don't be mad at me.
But, he heads up to his room after that, and he's sort of looking in his wallet, and he's like, shit, I ain't got any money.
I gotta break more rocks. As he was getting a cut, he took that money from Don Juan.
He didn't refuse it.
He took the money. Do more rock breaks.
Yeah. Or sell fake books, I don't know.
Yeah. He's got options. Rio's just a pussy.
Yeah. And I mean, there's like, it almost is, because in the game, you lose all of your money at the beginning. Whereas in this, it's like he has all his money in his wallet still. And so this sort of, I don't know, it almost makes it, because like from the beginning, you have to pay to stay at the Come-Over guest house, but you get like a discounted rate because
they never
you're friends
really
with Joy.
Address his money. Like they say he got a job and he drove forklifts, but they never like
tell you how much.
You don't know what he got paid.
Yeah.
You don't know what he saved. Does he even have it? Like honestly, it seems like he spent literally all of his every red cent on the ticket to Hong Kong. That's what this anime makes me believe.
Yeah. And then there's all the capsule toys he buys off screen.
Well, of course.
Yeah.
And that's what I like. Look, in the game, if you do that stupid, wheel and dealing,
where you
and
cheat.
you have your money,
yeah.
Can you, when he's like, time to pay me, do you just go, there you go?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, and I mean, there's
sick.
Because I think honestly now that I think
ways
about
to
it,
make money?
The first night he lets you stay for free, and then after that he's like, okay, now you get a discounted rate, and Joy she tells you where you can find work basically, and there are a few basically odd jobs that you can do in the game, like you can run a lucky hit stand, which is basically imagine a pachinko machine, but it's like a wooden board with the dowels there, and it's just one. You can run one of those.
I've heard
stands.
That's the best part of the game.
Yeah, people love Lucky Hit. I personally don't really play it that much because
you're not a gambling addict.
No, you can save scum in the game and basically break the economy with the actual gambling, which is a dice game called I think Roll It On Up.
Save scumming was so quick saving before you win.
Yeah,
and then if you lose, you just go back.
You just reload the save. But
wow,
Yeah, I do that a lot whenever I play, like, the first few hours of Shenmue 2. I just get as much money as I need,
Hell
and then
yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing any
Well, like,
jobs.
do they make the jobs fun? Like, would you ever want to be like, oh, I want to experience that again on my next playthrough?
So, like, some people may find joy from playing
That's
Lucky
a
Hit,
no.
but
That's an absolute fucking
and then
no.
the other job is, like, so the forklift I actually really enjoyed because it's, like, sort of like gamified where they're like, yeah, if you meet quota, then you get a raise.
You're like, what's this fucking bullshit game interrupting my forklift simulator?
And it's like they sort of make it so it's like you're seeing how many boxes you can move, and it's like if somebody fucking gets in your way, you're like, move out of the way, bitch. Like, I'm not gonna get quota if you're in my fucking way.
So it's a power thing.
Sure.
Yeah.
But whereas in this, like, instead of having a forklift, you move boxes by hand with this other dude. And I think Video Game Donkey, did a meme on that with the guy you move boxes with.
That sounds miserable.
And it's basically like QuickTime events where he's like, move left, move right.
Oh my god.
And he's like, we're putting it down.
And you get like 10 cents every time
you
you play
like
it.
Nothing. It's terrible.
God.
Whereas like the forklift, you at least get decent money. And you can get raises. Like, you don't get any raises moving boxes.
Like, there's a point that you cross where it's like, I understand that Shenmue wants to be like a real life sim.
Yeah.
But like, work is not fun.
When it's like, I think the idea was that they sort of are pushing you towards gambling, as weird as that is
funny.
to say.
That's hilarious.
Where they're like, yeah, you can, do an actual job.
Absolutely.
But you're going to make shit for money.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you can't be reckless in a video game, I mean, come on.
Yeah. It's interesting, though, because in Shenmue 2, the currency that you use is the same for gambling and everything else. But in Shenmue 3... And I almost wonder if this is like a weird thing where they like
gambling stash.
You have tokens, and you can then, like, in order to make money from gambling, you buy tokens and then use those tokens to buy prizes and then exchange those for money at pawn shops. And it's like,
that's a lot of steps.
Like, I get that they probably did that for some legal reason.
Vegas
where they're
did
like,
that, they'd be bankrupt.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That doesn't sound fun at all.
Yeah, and so it's sort of is tedious, and I do understand like why. Obviously, they don't want you save scumming, and also like I think they want to discourage like gambling in real life. Like they're like, yeah, well, it's for tokens, so don't sue us, parents, foundations.
Oh,
or whatever.
Fuck that.
And I'm like, yeah, like there's other games that do gambling, but
what is it, Teletubby Village that you go to? Gotta have a 5-year-old audience for chasing chickens and getting tokens.
Yeah.
That's stupid.
Yeah.
Keep it scummy, I say.
Yeah. Although there are ways to break the economy in Shenmue 3, but I won't get into all that because that's a whole other like metagame thing that would sort of be too big of a rabbit hole.
That's like League of Legends, when you spend all game killing people and people literally have like blood moves that they like shoot blood at shit, but then they're like, oh, this character has a cigar. We don't want to encourage the kiddos to smoke. Take it out. It's ridiculous.
But after that, sort of getting back on topic. Joy, she shows up at the come over guest house. She's throwing a rock at Rio's window. It's real cute, like high school romance type shtick.
She's aggressive about it.
Yeah, she fucking broke a hole through the window.
Not the rock, but like the
how much she's hitting on it.
Yeah.
So she shows up and she asks him out to dinner, and he's surprisingly...
She doesn't even ask. She's like, let's go get food.
Yeah.
It's just like, shit, you gonna come up here and beat me up if we don't?
And Rio actually agrees to go, which is like, wow, okay. Like,
he's got no money.
He has the money from Zongquan.
No, the roles are reversed. He's got to go out and be like, I have no money, I better find a girl to take me out for a date, because Rio just has that kind of pull game.
But from there, he goes out with her to dinner, and he tells Joy that he had gotten into a fight with the Yellowheads, and she says this really weird line, which they sort of play on throughout the episode for most of the rest of the runtime. She says, a real tough cat doesn't show his claws out in the open, which is, like, weirdly specific, I guess.
Yeah.
And Rio, he has another epiphany.
My God.
Just like he did in the last
Of course.
episode. And he's like, oh, I understand now. And he pays for dinner. And then he sort of runs off, and Joy's like...
He has a whole Nicolas Cage National Treasure.
Yeah.
The Cat and the Claw was the first episode of Batman the Animated Series. Batman the Animated Series was made in the 90s. The 90s...
Haven't happened yet. And then he runs off.
Haven't happened yet. And I haven't been able to get in the temple. Of course!
But yeah, so he runs off, and Joy's like, the fuck is this boy doing? Yeah, and so then from there, he goes back to Golden Shopping Mall, and the Yellowhead thugs are back at it again, harassing Zongquan. And Zongquan keeps sort of like, not really fighting them. He does like these... I don't even know how to describe it. Like, they're sort of fighting moves. Like, he does this sort of, like, low kick to knock a few over.
Meh.
And then he boops them with the little thing of books again.
Yeah, he's showing some moves.
Yeah, but, he's not really doing that good a job of fighting them. And so Rio shows up, and he basically sort of shouts to Zongquan. He's like, hey, you need to not really show your true strength when you're fighting. That's sort of the virtue that Master Zoshan was trying to teach you. And he's basically like, we're just horsing around, don't worry about it. And from there, the guy who is like, not the leader of the Yellowheads, but he's the one leading that little group. He's like...
They say boss.
I mean, the boss in the sense that it's like, you know how there's like, I guess, the dawn of a family.
Well, sure, and the captains and
yeah,
whatever.
He's more like a captain.
Okay.
But, yeah, he's like, okay, like, this kid's funny. We'll let you slide for now.
Oh.
And then they walk off. And it's just like, I mean, they had to end the scene somehow, but like,
it was weird. And this is what I wanted to talk about, because like the way it ended, I was like, what the fuck? Because they went like, oh, Don Juan and I are just pulling a scam, and the Yellowheads were like, yeah, and then left. So I'm like, did they?
Yeah.
Is that what happened? Was Rio wrong? Are they in cahoots?
Yeah.
Are they coordinating for money? Is that how they make the protection money? I don't really know. Like, it was, I don't know. Because they weren't done. Like, the lieutenant hadn't even got in there. And he's like the biggest dude.
Yeah.
But they're just like, nope.
And it's like, throughout all this...
we don't want these people to know that there's gang violence, but everybody knows who the Lemonheads are. So, fucking who cares?
So, at this point in the game, we do not know who the Yellowheads are. So, they're introducing them earlier, and like I sort of understand why they're doing that. They want you to know who they are when they show up later, and when you see their leader later on. So it's like I understand that they're sort of trying to build them up, but
well, that's kind of cool though, because like if Rio's just like, oh great, more thugs, get away from me, beats up people, and they're like, what the fuck have you just done?
Yeah,
it's like those were the fucking Lemonheads.
They run Hong Kong, and it's like, oh shit.
Oh fuck, man. Those some sour motherfuckers. You can't be sucking on them.
So from there, Rio and Zongquan are talking a bit, and Zongquan gives Rio a message for Master Zoshan, and he's like blushing when he gives it to him. He's
Dude,
like,
it's adorable.
He's like, you better not read it.
That's so cute.
And it's like, oh.
I had to do an audible like, aw.
Yeah.
He gave him a little note and was like, hee hee.
So the next day, Rio goes back to Guang Martial Arts School in order to deliver it, and basically it turns out that Zongquan has quit street performing. He actually did that a while ago, and he's once again following his passion for martial arts, and Master Zoshan teaches Rio the second Wudu, which is Ji, or I think it's Kai, as they say it in the...
Kai!
Yeah. But basically what that means is to keep your heart free of conceit and to never use force blindly or flaunt technique. And he says this sort of thing where he's like, yeah, just like a singer is constantly humming a tune, a martial artist is like constantly thinking about martial arts.
It made a lot more sense because like before Don Juan was like, oh, I'm humming for my hands, or I don't know what he said, but it's just like, what? Huh? Yeah. And then he's like, oh, as they hum, so do they finger. And it's like, okay, I guess that makes more sense, but it's kind of weird.
But yeah, so he teaches Rio Ji, and then from there Rio goes back to Manmo Temple, and he's talking to Master Tao, and he explains that he's learned the second of the Wudu, And he's like, that must have been why you wouldn't
They even
help
did
me.
like a big like you unlocked achievement like thing where like when he goes hey, and it's like
And
shows the big
yeah,
symbol and it's like
flashes
bwong! It's
Yeah.
like, oh shit, he just
Well,
unlocked it.
That is exactly how it happens in the game too, and so I sort of love that. And I mean, it's the same. Like whenever Rio learns a fighting move in the game, it like they tell you how to do the move, you do the move, and then it like freeze frames on you, and it's like doo doo doo, and it has the name and kanji of the move,
sick.
and it's like I love that stuff so much, and I'm glad we're getting at least some of that in the anime. But he tells Master Tao that he's learned Ji, and she's like, yeah, even though you've learned that was only like part of the reason that I'm not gonna help you, you know, like
You're still a sexist pig.
yeah, basically. But she's sort of, you know, Rio's like, well, I'm not going to give up. Like, I'll still keep coming back until you agree to help me. And that sort of triggers the rest of the flashback for Master Tao that we saw earlier in the episode, which was her when she was a kid. And in the, obviously we'll get this revealed later, but it was her older brother who she's talking to. And, you know, essentially there's a whole other, I guess, revenge dynamic with him. And he sort of leaves to go and get revenge for their parents.
A theme.
Yeah, and so it's like, it's this thing where she sort of sees a bit of her brother in Rio and sort of wants to help him at least a little bit or get him on the right path, I guess. And she's like, okay, like, I'll, like, follow me. I'll at least do something, you know, to help you out a bit. And she takes him to her apartment, and that sort of goes back to the whole thing earlier where Feng Mei was like, yeah, I cleaned your apartment. I just sort of felt like, you know, I needed to do that. And
yeah, she did.
And basically, Master Tao is like, yeah, you can stay here from now on. You know, it's the least I can do since Master Chen sort of sent you to me in good faith. And she tells Rio that her real name is Xu Ying. And from there, you know, like I was sort of saying, like Feng Mei and Han Hui are sort of like creeping outside of the doorway. And Feng Mei's like, I knew it was a good idea. And Han Hui's like, don't get your hopes up yet, kid. And so, and we do sort of miss out on, there's this funny interaction in the game where Xu Ying is like, Rio shows up in the apartment and he's like, we're gonna sleep on the same bed? And Xu Ying is like, no, you idiot. You're sleeping on the
it's
couch.
Stalin Stash that was gonna sleep with that. It's
no, it's Rio. Rio's with. Okay, so
he's with Stalin Stash.
No. Okay, so Han Hui is Stalin Stash.
Right. Oh.
Xu Ying is Master Tao's real name.
Oh yeah.
So
you're
going
right.
forward, I'm gonna
You're
just
right.
call her Xu Ying.
So he's with her. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's like, get the fuck out of my bed, you creep.
Yeah. She's like, nah, there's a couch.
You're sleeping on the floor like the dog you are.
Here's a rock.
Yeah. Fuck you.
But yeah, we don't really get that, and it's like it was a funny line in the game, so it would have sort of, I don't know, like we don't really have that tone here to do that. But after that, we basically end the episode with I think a much more subtle scene of Shenhua sort of, you know, at the apartment they pan out on like the stars because it's nighttime now, and so then from there it sort of goes over to Shenhua looking at the stars at night, and so I think it was a lot more subtle. She doesn't really say anything, she's just looking off into the night sky, and the episode ends there. So what did you think of the episode overall?
I kind of thought it was weaker than the last week's. Like, I liked last week's because there was a lot going on. Like, he gets to Hong Kong, he meets these characters, he gets his bags stolen, he has to practice in the park with the old man, he has to go to the temple, and he has to do all this stuff, like, bum, 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 bum. There was a lot going on. There were interesting plot points. And then this one, it's like, it felt kind of like the Shenmue movie.
Yeah.
Where he's like...
He's going back and forth.
Back and forth the same places.
Yeah.
He goes, oh, I'm at the mall. Oh, I'm at the dojo. Back at the mall. Back at the dojo. Back at the mall. Back at the dojo. Then he can go back to the other dojo.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't fault the storytelling. Like, they did it as best they could, and it worked. Like, characters have arcs. You know, Don Juan had his own arc.
Yeah. Zoshan has
his arc.
Yeah.
Rio unlocks, he learns something about himself. He has his own arc. So it's well told. So it's not like bad. This isn't a bad episode. But I was more interested in last week's than just the errands list of like, oh, now you've unlocked my dialogue.
Yeah.
Now go unlock his dialogue so you can talk to me again because I don't have the dialogue option for you right now, you know.
I mean, and I guess I'm sort of a little different, and I guess since I have played the games quite a few times at this point, I'm very, like, used to that, and so it feels really comfortable, him going back and forth. Like, I sort of liked that this was, like, a bit of a slower episode, almost.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that's sort of the pacing that I feel would match for like a Shenmue anime. So I don't know, it's like I liked it. I, like you were saying, I do like that they have like really good arcs for like each of the characters, and like we're learning more about Shu Ying and you know, all the different relationships she has as far as like with Fong Mei, as well as her brother, who we only know a little bit about at this point. You know, that's stuff that we're going to learn more of in the future, obviously, but
it just felt like super, like, he spent this entire episode with these few characters to unlock one part of the voodoo.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, only 3 more to go or something. And it's like, oh, okay.
It's 2 more. But okay. I'm sort of like, I was not sure if they were going to do the voodoo at all. Sort of going into the anime, I was like, it seems like something that would just take up too much time. But now that we are learning it, it's something that is sort of important to Rio's growth as a martial artist in the game. You know, sort of learning all these different lessons and what it means to actually be a martial artist. And
there's just this thing looming over the whole anime, is that it's like, this is a 13-episode anime.
Yeah.
It's trying to cover the 2 games.
Yeah.
You know, if it works out and every episode is well paced and shows what they need to show and we're happy, that's fine. But if it's like the end of the first game in the anime where it's fucking bad and like not animated and not organized and rushed and bad, I'm gonna be pissed that they chose to do the really slow stuff at the expense of what should be the fucking highlight.
Yeah, and it's like, I wonder, because like there's a lot of fighting in the second game, and I wonder if, you know, my hope is maybe that the budget went towards that, and that's why we sort of got a half-assed 70-man battle and stuff like that. But then on the other hand, it's like, if they just don't have the budget at all, I'd rather them at least stay true.
Skip the voodoo. Cut episodes if you have to, but I mean, like, know what's important. And I mean, like, well, like, of course there's shit that Shenmue fans would be like, oh, that's really cool that they included this. They could have done that with the first game. I mean, think about how much longer the anime could have been if they put in like all the cool things that fans would go, meh! And recognize. But like, the story has to be good for me.
Yeah,
and that's true. Yeah, I'm the dumb audience who doesn't have experience, and I still have more experience than most. But like, I'm who they're catering to.
Yeah.
So if it's not well done
for like someone who knows
anime
nothing,
fan, then it's not worth fleshing out the fan service.
Yeah. That's fair. Yeah.
But we'll have to see. Like, I'm not trying to discredit the path they're taking in that they're going to show the voodoo and all this stuff. Like, you know, if they make it important and relevant and it goes throughout the series as like a theme or whatever, sweet. You know, it shows character progression for Rio. Like, that's awesome. But I'm cautiously optimistic about it.
And I'm sort of curious to see, because like so far we've had Wally's in Hong Kong. Like, basically each episode he's learning one of the new voodoo. But the next 2, one of them in particular, like, pretty much nothing happens for him to learn that one. Are you okay with me spoiling it?
No, I don't care.
So one of them, it basically, I think the lesson is that it's like, don't react like instinctively without sort of reading the room. You know, basically get a hold of your surroundings before you act abruptly, I guess. And to teach him that, Rio goes to this barber, and the barber's like, hey, I'll like trim your hair or whatever. And he gets a straight razor out, and he's like, don't move. And he puts the straight razor up to Rio's neck.
What the fuck?
And if it's a QTE in the game, and if you press the button, then you fail, because he told you not to move. And whereas if you don't, and you just sit there like stoically while he has it, he's like, okay, like he passed.
What
like
the fuck?
Like, I told you not to.
And that's a virtue?
It's sort of like thinking rationally.
Is anyone fucking alive?
Here's all the dead people that I tried teaching that
No,
to.
I'm just saying, in the voodoo. Are you serious?
Yeah, like how I don't, but it's like a really short thing for him to learn.
That's the worst lesson I've ever heard of.
I don't remember the exact, like,
what the
wording
fuck?
for the
That's
last...
like getting pulled into an alley and a guy brandishes a knife and he's like, give me your wallet. And you're like, well, maybe. He's actually just trying to sell me a passport. I don't know. What? Don't react. Don't do any. What the fuck?
But, I mean, okay. So, like, you are told to go there because the guy is a martial artist who knows about the voodoo. And so it's like, obviously you're going in with that sort of... It's not just a random guy who does that. And he's like, oh, BT dubs, the voodoo.
That's better, but...
Yeah.
Shit, did you have to threaten my life to teach me the lesson?
Apparently.
Jesus Christ.
But that's like a really short thing, and it's like, I don't think
I'd say that's a lesson you learned when you're like, get out of here, feeble-minded woman. I'm looking for the master. And it's like, yeah, don't fucking instinctively think that you know what the fuck's going on.
I think that it was more, he was sort of conceited in that moment. And he's like, well, there's no way a woman could be like that, you know, or whatever. And so it's like, that's sort of, I don't know. But point is, I don't think they could stretch that into an entire episode. Because it literally is just him being like, don't
put it in the next one. I don't know.
Yeah, so it's like, I think we could feasibly do 2 voodoo in the next episode. Because then the other one is sort of more substantial. Are you okay with me telling you that one? But what happens is there was that old lady at the apartments in the previous episode who's like, yeah, Master Tao's not here anymore. Go away. Like, go over to Shenmue Temple. She basically is getting harassed by these gangsters. In the game, they're the land sharks. I don't know if they're going to do the yellowheads in this or what. But essentially,
I forgot about the land sharks.
Yeah. Essentially, you fight off the land sharks, and she teaches you the 4th voodoo, which is to, like, you know, never hesitate to do what's right, I guess. And so she's like, yeah, you helped me even though you didn't have to. Like, you know, you just sort of saw me getting harassed by these guys. Lesson. Yeah, and so it's like...
Not like, don't react to things. What the fuck?
Don't react instinctively.
That's ridiculous.
But, yeah, so I think they could feasibly do both of those in one episode. But we'll see.
Instincts keep you alive.
No. And again, I'm not wording that like the right way. Like, I'm sure there's a different way that they call it. But so sort of from there, we briefly mentioned we had a bit of a meme in terms of what the name of the episode is. It's called Future. So why do you think they called it that?
I mean, let's be real. All these episodes are just named after like fucking white girl tattoos that they'd get in Chinese or whatever. Yeah. Like they'd get like lechuga, you know, tattooed on the side. It means peace. It's like, no, bitch, that means lettuce. Yeah. So that's what these episodes are. That's all the name is. But if we're gonna have to be like, oh, it's the like her friends who go like, oh wow, what a good tattoo. What does it mean?
It's like the you know, like when you're in English class in school and they're like,
what do you think?
What's the hidden meaning?
Blue drapes? What do you think they meant?
Yeah, what do they symbolize?
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's what we're stuck with. So, future. I'd say that Rio knows that he has a future with the master. After this episode, after learning one of the voodoos, he's like, I have a future that I'm pursuing with this person.
So for
maybe
me,
the future of Don Juan. Maybe he's
that's what I was gonna say.
Oh,
yeah, because like Master Zoshan at the end is basically like, yeah, you know, like he's back on the path of martial arts. Good for him. So it's like he sort of has a future again, I guess. I sort of think that's what they were getting at, but it really is a thing where you have to sort of read into it and pick things apart for it to make any real sense. But
they literally just had like a dartboard up, I assume. I don't know, like shackles, yin yang, freedom, future. What the fuck?
So from there,
why even name them?
You're right.
Just number them if you're gonna be like this.
Yeah, I mean,
don't make us have to read into your stupid ass name that doesn't fucking make any sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a situation where like in like The Mandalorian, for example, I feel like the episodes have really good names that are really like they really fit what
and
the episode
sometimes they
is.
subvert what you're thinking.
Yeah,
you're like
yeah.
like there was one. It wasn't Mandalorian, but it's same shit.
Yeah.
You know, Book of Boba Fett. It goes, a man comes out of the desert or something like that. The man from the desert.
Yeah.
And it starts out with Timothy Oliphant, you know, being a fucking marshal like he does.
Yeah.
And he's in a desert, and you're like, there he is. There's the man. But no. Later on, Cad Bane comes out of the
spoilers
desert.
for Book of Boba Fett.
And you're like, oh, they fucking know. And it's like, oh shit, that's the man. And you go like, whoa, the name of the episode fucking told me and I didn't realize. And you're like, wow, that's so cool. Future, could you imagine? That episode might as well have been called Future. And you go, Future what? My Future Diary? Back to the Future?
Yeah.
Days of Future Past? How many more Future? I don't know. It's stupid.
Yeah.
And I am tired of them not giving a shit and just fucking being like, this is the word of the week.
You're going to be real mad at the next episode.
What is it?
Aspiration.
Aspirations. Wow, they know a fucking, was that 4 syllables?
Yeah. It's like, what would be on a fortune cookie? Something about the future, something about your aspirations, maybe throw in some yin-yang stuff. Yeah.
That's way better than future, though, honestly.
Yin-yang?
No,
Aspiration?
that's stupid. Aspiration.
Okay.
I mean, like, I guess everybody fucking has aspirations. Everybody has a future. Everything is everything.
Yeah.
I don't know. Whatever. I'm over it.
So we're at the halfway point for the anime now. What was your favorite episode so far, if you had to pick one?
Honestly, the last episode was great, and I liked either the second or the third. Maybe the second.
Describe what happens, and I'll...
Well, the second one, he goes...
Third one's where he gets the mirror.
Okay.
And meets Master Chen.
Okay, that was a really good one. And then the second one, he... What the fuck happens? I just remember I liked it.
First investigating.
Yeah,
right?
And then the Chens are at the end, and they're like...
Yeah, we see the
Chens.
like... Yeah.
And he's investigating, and...
He fights Charlie, the sailors, in the Heartbeats bar. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I like that. Like, I like the episodes where he's doing errands, but there's variety.
Yeah.
Those have been my favorites, which is fucking not what I expected at all.
Yeah.
But that's the most well done part of this show so far. I guess I would have to say the last episode is my favorite then.
Yeah, I'm sort of with you. I think either episode 2 or 3 or the previous episode. I did like this one a lot as well. And that sort of just leans into my, I guess, like, me being a Shenmue fan. I'm like, oh, this is like comfort food.
This
like,
is up there.
It feels, you know.
I do think there were some episodes in Japan done better. Like two or three.
Yeah, I'll agree with that, yeah. But, yeah, I sort of... Jumping off on that, what would you say is the worst episode that we've had so far?
Oof. Yeah, definitely the fucking episode 5.
Yeah.
The 70-man battle. The one before that wasn't great. Honestly, the first episode wasn't great.
Yeah.
Which... Looking back, it doesn't look even.
Which
it looks even worse, right?
Like when I watched that first episode, I was like, "This is fucking awesome! Like this is the best!" Like I
wasn't very hyped
picture it to be
first.
better.
Yeah.
But then like, you know, then episode 2 and episode 3 being better than that, sort of like built up my hype, and then 4 and 5 were like,
yeah, it is bad. Especially 5, but
yeah.
So 5 is the worst by far.
Yeah, I agree
by a lot. It was like it's really jarring how fucking bad it is.
Yeah.
You're just like, what is this?
And like I think just it's going to be interesting to see how they wrap things up in this portion of the story, cuz like I think they sort of wanted to give the side characters stuff to do in that because they really don't do much in the games or in the game, whereas in Shenmue 2 all of the side characters are like a lot more involved. They're helping Rio, you know, sort of as we sort of reach like the climax of that story, and it's like I think they wanted to have a similar thing for them to its detriment.
That's fine. Like if you want to flesh out characters, by all means, please go for it. But don't make it as fucking shallow as your episode names, where it's like, oh, let's just come up with some random activity for them to do during this important thing.
Yeah.
Like
we need Goro.
They're escaping the harbor. They're going back to the harbor.
Let's have Goro pee on himself.
Right. They're giggling and laying down in their piles of spaghetti that fell out of their pockets. Like I don't want to watch that. I want to watch interesting things.
Yeah.
There are B plots you can make that are interesting, but it takes like thought.
Yeah.
That's it. you know, the ones that happened in episode 5, the B plots there, did not take thought. It was just like, fuck it, we need to stretch the episodes, so send them over there, bring them back here.
Yeah, and they don't go anywhere. Like, they don't...
Right.
They don't really feed into the narrative other than to get them into the point where they want them at the end of
those
that
characters
episode.
stayed the same the whole there was no arc, there was no nothing. Like, you learn about Mark and everything in 4.
Goro is still the same goofball by the end of
you
the
learn
episode.
enough you need to know about those characters in 4, and then 5 does little to nothing to expand them at all. It's just that, like, Goro's girlfriend beats him more than you would think.
And they're getting married, and you're like, oh, Goro,
that's fucked.
You're gonna die.
Don't make that decision right now, my man. But, like...
Yeah, you've got so much life ahead.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. He's fucked. But, I don't know. It's... Make it good. I don't want to fucking say that it's bad. I don't want to have bad episodes.
And that
I have more fun talking about good episodes.
That should have been the best episode of the Japan portion.
Yeah.
You know, with the 70-man battle.
I was hyped.
Yeah. I was too. Yeah. But, you know, that's how things
now
go.
I gotta be fucking worried that they're gonna blow it again.
I just hope
I really don't want them to flub the ending.
I really hope the budget for the... Because there's some really cool fighting. When he gets to Kowloon, especially, there are some real cool fights. So I'm like, I just really hope we...
So I'm saying, like, the Voodoo's fine, but fucking don't blow episode 5 again, please. Yeah.
So are there any sort of final thoughts you want to talk about before we wrap this episode up, or...
Where do you think the next episode's going to end in the scope of the game?
So I can see it going 2 different ways. We sort of have talked about it's possible that they might do 2 of the Voodoo in the next episode.
Yeah.
So feasibly they could wrap things up in Hong Kong, I think, by the end of episode 4. Because, like, once he learns all the
episode
Voodoo...
4 of this half?
Yeah, so the 4th
9?
episode in Hong Kong, I guess, if we're... Yeah.
So one more after the next?
Yeah. Like, I think he's going to finish learning the Voodoo, and then from there, he essentially, and I sort of spoiled part of the next episode for myself, but also I knew what happens in the game. I just didn't know it would happen this way in the anime, where he's doing sort of chores around the Manmo Temple, and he's airing out these books, and one of the books is by Yondazu, and it's, like, hidden behind this locked cabinet, and he opens it, and there's a clue to finding Yondazu in it. And then from there, he sort of finds out that he's in Kowloon and that he needs to go there. And that's how he sort of meets up with Ren from there. And
so all this is still just to meet Yondazu?
Yes, yeah, because he needs to find him because he's the one who supposedly knows the truth about why his father was killed. Yeah, I think we're sort of gonna wrap up that portion, the Hong Kong stuff, by the end of episode 9.
I have completely forgotten that's why he was even in Hong Kong.
Yeah, I mean, he, like, there's a throwaway line in this episode where he's like, you know, like, damn, I need to meet Yondazu or whatever, and Han Hui is like, oh, you should go to Guang Martial Arts School. That's why he points him over there, but... the
short-term objectives in this seem a lot more urgent than the long-term.
Yeah, and
like
I mean,
Shenmue.
Like, that is it's a Shenmue-ism. Your wallets.
Yeah.
Okay. But, yeah, that's like, even Han Hui says something like, yeah, the path to your goal might not be a straight line.
Yeah.
And that's...
Oh, he says it stupidly. He goes like, oh, the shortest distance between 2 lines might not be a straight one. It's like, no, it always is. It's always a straight line. But I guess I get what you're saying.
Yeah. But, yeah, so I think we're going to wrap that up in the 4th episode 9, if we're being technical. And then from there, it's going to be interesting to see if Kowloon is 3 episodes or, wait, because let's see, yeah, that would be 4 and then 3 for Kowloon, question mark. But, yeah, like, we'll sort of have to play things by ear.
Calhoun?
No, it's a place. Alright, so anyways, that's going to do it for today's episode of the Boyos Discuss. If you enjoyed it and you're watching on YouTube, then we'd really appreciate it if you'd like the video and subscribe to the channel. We'll be continuing our review of Shenmue the Animation next week with episode 8, which is titled Aspiration. Anyways, guys, until next time.
How about a game of Lucky Hit? How about a game? It's $50 a game, and the rule is...
I don't have the money!
Oh. Please come again.